Welcome. This is part 2 of the series, Parenting Through the Lens of Torah and Neuroscience. My name is Dena Schusterman and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the founding director of the In-Town Jewish Preschool for the last 14 years. I have 8 children, ranging in ages from 24 years old and 8-year-old twins are the youngest. I have a grandson as well. I am not a neuroscientist, but I have found that the way to create systemic change in your parenting and relationships is through understanding how the brain and the emotions work together. There is not one single ingredient to nurture your body, nor is there one path to parent your child. The most important thing is to keep doing your best to nourish yourself and the relationship. Our bodies and our souls are intrinsically connected. Although at our core we are a soul, so we cannot separate the two. If it is good for my body, it has to be good for my soul, and vice versa. Torah and brain science go hand in hand, and I have found them both to have trusted wisdom in my journey as a mom. Our bodies are wonderful houses for our soul, and the brain is the command center for our bodies, always working toward mind controlling the heart. Our emotions sometimes create difficulty for the brain to function. We discussed this in the last video. Why do our emotions create difficulty for the brain to function? Because everything gets processed through our emotions before it moves through the brain. So sometimes that emotion is too difficult and the brain can't get a hold of it. It can't control it. You can access the last video on JLI's Facebook page. It is our job as parents to A, process our own emotions appropriately through our brain, B, help our children do this. Physiologically, as adults, we have the mental capacity to process emotions. Our children, they do not have this ability yet. It is not until about 21 to 24 that they really get this ability. But with the right training, we bring our children closer to this every day. Our core, our soul, desires connection, authenticity, spirituality, and equilibrium. But as we discussed in the last class, that when there's emotional mayhem, it is hard to have any of this. So I want to share with you the 7 powers that an adult has to control their emotions and reactions. These are 7 things that you can think about when you feel like things are spiraling out of control. If you use these 7 powers, you will gain control of yourself and also give your child a training. What does that mean? It means that each time you make a conscious decision to choose love, to choose unity, to choose acceptance, the 7 things we're going to discuss, you are training your brain to keep searching for that solution in future emotional episodes. So the more you do it, the more you'll get used to doing it. And at the same time, you are training your child to do this as well. This will become more clear in a few minutes. In addition, when you are in control of yourself, it helps your child feel safe, which is, of course, the optimal way for a child to learn, full stop, feeling safe. And then, as we discussed last week, like a mirror, your child's brain picks up on your control and what you are modeling, and your child learns these skills for him or herself, and the cycle continues. And what I'm saying here, this is scientifically based, that this is, your training is how your child's brain gets wired for these skills. I remember once watching my daughter play with her dolls, and she was saying, "Okay, sweetie, mommy's going out now. You're going to be with a babysitter. Don't worry, you're going to be okay." And she was just modeling what I do. I was going out. I was leaving her with a babysitter. Maybe I needed to stop doing that a little too often. In order to access your executive state, in order to feel in control, especially when things are out of control, when your child is pressing all of your buttons, the first and foremost thing you need to do is breathe. Breathing brings oxygen to your brain, and this is what the research shows, that when you inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth, you are taking the oxygen, you are priming your brain to think as opposed to only reacting through your emotions. This is literally how God put a soul inside of the first human. It says in Bereshit, God then formed man out of dust of the ground, and he blew into his nostrils a soul of life, and man became a living being. This is life. Deep breaths is how we access our executive state or function of our brain. So as a parent, this is our lifeline. It is how the brain works optimally. It is how you're able to access the decision-making part of your brain instead of just reacting based on your overpowering emotions. So through breathing, you can start using your brain. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I'm going to give you today 7 powers for conscious adults, because the biggest threat to a child's sense of safety is an out-of-control adult. The key to safety is a conscious, mindful adult. So 7 powers that you have. After you've taken a deep breath, you search for one of these powers in the moment. The first power is the power of perception. Tfisa. The Tanya says that no human mind can grasp Hashem. We have no concept of his greatness, yet we have the power to perceive each other in a new light, this power of perception. The big idea is that no one can make you angry without your permission. The mnemonic device I use for this is Q-tip. I just want to say, I forgot to mention it earlier, that everything I'm talking about here is from Dr. Becky Bailey and Conscious Discipline, and the addition of the Hebrew, the Torah concepts, is something I worked on with other educators here in Atlanta. So Q-tip, quit taking it personally. It is happening in front of you. It is not happening to you. So things like when you say to your child, "You are making me late," you are teaching your child that they are in control of you. Instead, we say to our children, "We're leaving. It's time to go. We're leaving in 5 minutes." So you take control of the situation. And again, the perception, it's not happening to you. It's happening in front of you. I am watching this, my child melt down. I can handle this. It's not personal. The goal of this is to teach adults and children to take responsibility for our own upset. The next power is the power of unity, achdut, achdus. The big idea is we are all in this together. You are empathizing with your child at this point. You say to your child, "You were hoping that. You were hoping that you would have 27 more hours on the computer. You were hoping that you could eat the entire bucket of ice cream. You were hoping. I hear you saying that you wanted to spend a week at your grandparents' house." It does not mean that you magically give them everything they want. It is nodding, it is recognizing, it is being there with them, but not getting caught up. You don't catch their crazy. Say that again. Don't catch their crazy. You might have to remind yourselves 100 times a day, but the goal of this is to perceive compassionately and offer compassion to others and to ourselves. The next power is the power of attention, to sumat lev, paying attention. Whatever we focus on, we get more of. So praise the behavior. You sat in the car without kicking your brother. I saw that even though you didn't want to loan your sister the skirt because she wore it without asking you, you let her wear it anyway. So praise the behavior you want to get more of. When you say to a child, "Don't sit on the table," all they hear is, "Sit on the table." Redirect your children. I wonder how many places we could find to sit comfortably in this room. You could sit on that chair. You could sit underneath the table. We're sitting here. Redirect them. Be curious with them instead of admonishing. The goal is to create images of expected behavior in a child's brain. So again, that was paying attention. The next power is the power of bechira chafshis, free will. The big idea here is the only person you can change, I can only change me, and you can only change you. We talked about this a lot in the last video, but I'm going to emphasize here the goal. The goal of Bechira Chavshis, the only person I can change is myself, is learning to connect instead of forcing and coercing. So we're learning to guide our children and connect with them. We don't want to force them and coerce them. Because through that connection, we get willingness. We spoke about this a lot last time. And we need their willingness to do what we need them to do, what they need to do for themselves. The next power is the power of acceptance, Kabbalas all. The moment is as it is. Be in the moment. Hashem created this moment, this time, this place for you to work through. This is a big deal right now during this pandemic, and we're all in moments that are really hard for us. It's acceptance and then growing from it, making space for the discomfort, being in your discomfort. It is much healthier than denial. Acceptance as opposed to denial, not acceptance in order to feel defeat. We see parents, sometimes ourselves, bribing and happying up our children constantly. If you just get out of the car, if you go to camp today when your child is miserable and maybe they don't want to leave you, and you say, I'll give you a cookie when you get home. You can go on the iPad when you go home. We'll buy you something. You are happying up your child. And you know what we get? We get adults with a lot of addictions because they don't know how to be in their discomfort and they constantly need a distraction. So the goal of Kabbalas all, of being in the moment, is to learn to respond to what life offers instead of attempting to make the world go our way. I cannot think of a more appropriate time than the times we're in right now to really work on this power. The next power is the power of love, ahava. The big idea here is to choose to see the best in others. It's positive intent. And we spoke about this one as well. And my favorite quote for this one is that if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you are right. Think loving thoughts about your child, and you will be right eventually. I'm not saying, again, to be in denial, but when you don't know what happened between two siblings, when you don't know what happened between your child and their teacher, you're going to make things up in your head, and you might as well make up positive scenarios for yourself about them. And watch how this changes the way your child seeks solutions in their own brain. It literally changes the way their brain function works and where they go to for solutions. So you will watch a child who's constantly given positive intent towards them. Oh, you were hoping, or you didn't realize, when you give them that positive intent, and then that toddler, his baby, grabs a big chunk of hair out of his head and he's holding it. And instead of wailing, that toddler is going to say, Ma, he probably thinks this is funny. Because that child is used to saying he probably thinks, and he's used to positive intent. And he's not going to be, the other child is going to be screaming, he's hurting me, he hates me. So that is the power of love, positive intent. And we literally rewire our brains to think that way when we do it for our children. The goal of this is seeing the best in others keeps us in the higher centers of our brain so we can consciously respond instead of unconsciously react to life events. So positive intent comes from a more profound part of your brain. Isn't that interesting? The next power is the power of kavana, the power of intention. Mistakes are opportunities to learn. And a great word to use here is oops. Oops, you didn't realize. Oops, I forgot. Ma, you told me I could. Oops, I didn't realize. I'm sorry. So this should become a word that you use in your house. Oops. I'm a notorious blamer, and I have to work on this all of the time. I love to find who did what, exactly when, and why. The goal here, the goal of kavanah, of intention, is to teach a new skill rather than punishing others for lacking skills we think they should possess by now. So, becoming conscious of hurtful patterns and the willingness to change those patterns is the greatest gift we can give children. Becoming conscious allows us to access our own wisdom and remain calm in the face of antagonism and disorder. It is the foundation of choice and change. So looking back at these 7 powers, looking back at the tfisa, the power of perception, the power of unity, achdus, the power of attention, tesumat lev, the power of free will, b'chira chavshis, the power of Kabbalah, all, the power of acceptance, the power of love, ahava, the power of kavana, the power of intention. These are the foundation of choice and of change, that systemic change we all want to see in our families and in our children. In the Shema, which is the most basic prayer, it says, V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi metzavacha hayom al levavecha. And these words that I am commanding you today should be on your heart. Should it not say in your heart? You should take these words. Should it not be that the love, fear, and the knowledge of the oneness of God is in your heart? And the Holy Kotzker Rebbe says, the reason it says al, on, instead of in, on your heart, is because we don't always have an open heart to learn, to love, to grow. And especially with our children, if we place all of these tools, if we place the unity, the love, the acceptance, the intention, the free choice, the Kabbalah, if we place it all of this on their hearts, if we model it for them, the Kotzker says, when we teach our children well, we are placing it on their hearts, one day when they are open to it, it will all fall into their hearts. So keep growing. Think about these mind shifts. Take deep breaths. These tools, or as Becky Bailey calls them, powers, keep thinking about them. Keep using them. And thank you for allowing me to share some of what inspires me deeply. Our children are our future, and I know it will be bright. Thank you.